2 months after a rough showing at the 2025 general election, the Progress Singapore Party, or PSP, is hitting the refresh button, starting with a change in its leadership. Over the weekend, its founder and chairman, Dr Tan Cheng Bock, along with Vice Chair Hazel Poa, stepped down from the party's Central Executive Committee. Now, Party Treasurer S. Nallakaruppan also relinquished his role. Now, with renewal being the theme of the day, it was announced that 3 new faces were joining the committee. And one of them is my guest today. Stephanie Tan is a homemaker and former lawyer who contested in a general election for the first time under the PSP banner. Now, she joins me today to chat about what's next for PSP following the post-GE leadership shakeup. Now, before we get into it, if you have any questions or hot takes for her or about the show, drop them in the comments and I'll keep an eye out for them. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I wanted to ask you, how have you been for the past 2 months after the general election?
Life has been pretty much back to normal. Mummy duties.
Okay.
Yeah, but the party-wise, we have been mostly involved in doing our reflection and review of what happened, during the GE. We have been very much focused on just asking people around us and also residents that we visit, how they thought we performed and why they thought we did, why they thought the outcome was like that, and also what they thought we could have done better.
Okay, so we'll get into it in a bit. But I want to start with what was the mood like in the party? Because as you said, the PSP contested in 6 constituencies but didn't win a seat. And
Yes.
it didn't even have an NCMP or Non-Constituency MP post, right?
Yes.
So what was the mood among party members after the election results came out?
I think immediately after the results came out, there was a lot of disappointment. Yeah, we all fight elections to win it, right? And there was a lot of time and effort that had been put in, not just, leading up to the campaign or during the campaign, but we're looking at about 4.5 years leading up to the GE because we had 2 NCMPs in Parliament. So for that 4.5 years, we actually worked very hard to support our NCMPs. And we debated the government on many motions. We raised motions and we filed PQs. And I think there was a lot of time and effort put in by many, many people behind the scenes. So when the results came out, I think it was understandable that, there was a lot of disappointment.
So you mentioned that you were talking to people on the ground, people that I believe you have interacted with when you were walking the ground, right? What were some learning points for the party that you all picked up? And for yourself personally, having spoken to, Singaporean voters?
I think we always get mixed views, whenever we speak to people, right? So there were a wide range of views. And I think some people thought that they would like to see more of the candidates, not just before the election, but, maybe consistently throughout the lead up to it, maybe the 4 or 5 years before that. Yeah, and also they wanted to know more about us, also not just in person. I think in person, that's a minimum, that's a bare requirement to see you in the constituency, right? But also maybe more of us online. Yeah, so that's also a learning point for us, how we can, try to reach out through more innovative ways as well. Yeah.
Okay. Did you learn anything personally about, standing? Because you're standing for the first time. You were standing for the first time.
Yes.
In an election. What were some learning points that you picked up along the way?
Along the way, I think for me, it's personally, I just feel that I will be just true to myself, because there will always be people who like you and dislike you. So, for instance, when I was walking in Pioneer, I think there were many people who were very delighted to see a new candidate and a younger candidate, step forward and have a choice to vote for, right? Somebody else to vote for. But there were also people who expressed doubts about me, Some of these residents are very direct. So, I speak to them and they're like, you're too young, or you don't look fierce enough. Are you sure you can debate the ministers in Parliament? So there's always a mixed views lah. But I think that in general, people are happy to see a younger candidate. Somehow, I think they feel that it's something that is refreshing, and they're curious to know, what a younger candidate can offer. So I think refreshing the candidate slate would be a learning point for us as well, to bring in new faces, because actually the party does have a pool of young talent. It is just that for the past few years, they have been working mostly behind the scenes. So for instance, our policy team and our communications team are both headed by members who are younger than me. And it's also staffed by mostly members from our youth wing. Yeah, so we do have, so I think that what we can do now is to maybe try to expose them a bit more to the public and to give them more opportunities, I feel, to do more public-facing things. Yeah.
So, going on that, because I had Ms. Poa Hazel on the show before nomination day, and we did talk about whether PSP had an image, the perception that is a party of older uncles, and then you're bringing up this age thing. So I want to, did that come up in the post-mortem of the GE, as opposed to say other parties who were fielding like younger candidates who were great on TikTok and they were connecting online? So is this perception thing, will PSP tackle it head on going forward?
Yes, definitely. It's one of the main things that we will be tackling, and our SecGen Leong Mun Wai and the CC has also expressed support for this whole shake-up and how we're going to sort of change the image of the party. It's not something that we are going to, it's not like we have never had the younger people. We have, it's just that they have not been exposed to the public as much. And I think there's also a concern for us for alternative political parties, which is that, these young people, they're at a stage of life where they are, they just started their work and they're building their career. And so some of them are understandably cautious about being, openly associated with an alternative political party. So as leaders, we also have to respect that, as much as we want to, push them to the limelight sort of thing. We have to also respect their level of comfort with that. Yeah. Okay. So this is one thing that alternative parties grapple with, Yeah.
Are there particular, PSP members that the public should watch out for going forward?
Oh,
just
they might not
some
be
people
happy
to look
if
out for.
drop names. But the head of our youth wing, Samuel, he's also the one of the CC members. In fact, he's the youngest CC member. Yeah, I'm not the youngest one.
I thought it was you, but I was scrolling trying to look at the pictures. Like, who is the young ones?
There are actually two CC members younger than me, and they were elected into CC. So mine is a co-option. Yeah, they were actually elected by our cadres into CC. Yeah.
Well, actually, I don't want to make it an age thing, but what do you think young people in general can bring to politics in Singapore now?
I think many of the issues that Singaporeans are facing do hit the younger generation harder. Like, for example, the issue of housing. Because our parents, they were in a period of time where they could buy houses at much more affordable prices. But now we see all these young graduates, they're worrying and they're struggling to buy their first home. Yeah. So I think they will bring a very important perspectives in the way we contribute to like the national conversation on many of these important issues. So I think that perspective will be very important so that we can suggest more relevant and better solutions to the problems that they're facing. So that's one, contribution on the national policy side of things. But of course, I think the young people always bring something refreshing. And they are the ones who are good at social media and digital platforms and stuff like that. So I think it will be a great thing to have them be involved more, and I think it would definitely help in bringing PSP forward. Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why we're talking about PSP today is because over the weekend, there was a press conference, right, where Mr. Leong fronted, and he talked a lot about renewal and fresh blood, and that's when they announced that you were co-opted along with two others into the CEC.
Yes.
How do you feel about, besides Samuel, being in the forefront of the decision-making committee?
I'm very thankful for the opportunity to do this. I see it as like a progression from being a candidate to being a CC member. So when I was a candidate, I led my own campaign in Pioneer. I made decisions with my team, but it was in relation to Pioneer. So right now, it's a progression from that to making decisions for the party. Yeah. So I look forward to learning, from the existing members, and I'm also excited to bring my perspective into, formulation of the party's direction for the next few years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mr. Leong said that PSP will change without having to announce it. So it's one of the things he said. And, what does he mean by this specifically, and what can voters expect to look out for from the party? It's a long way, I know, but are there certain things that people should look out for from the PSP with a renewed slate?
I think he probably means that we're not going to just say we're going to change in this way, but we will do things so that people can feel it for themselves and see it for themselves. That things are changing, and for us, I think that one of the areas we are excited to move into is probably to do more like a social outreach events in terms of engagement. So for the very traditional ways of engagement generally is house visits and walkabouts, right, at markets, because that's where you get to meet people like the average Singaporean and find out about how their life is like and the issues that they have. But I think for social outreach events, it is more targeted at specific group of Singaporeans with certain maybe specific needs. So for example, we could be we hope to maybe visit a nursing home, for example. Speak to the elderly residents there, their family members, the staff there, to find out what issues that they are facing, and whether these issues might be caused by certain gaps in the policies that we have. So I think that might be a more effective way of obtaining first-hand information about specific issues. And I think in the process of doing that, there's also an element where I feel you can sort of help, different groups of people more directly. Yeah, so I think that's one part I'm quite excited to do with the party. Yeah.
I think we do need to address I'm not sure if it's the elephant in the room, but the fact is that PSP does not have a presence in Parliament anymore. So just for some context for our viewers, in the previous term of Parliament, Mr. Leong Mun Wai and Ms. Hazel Poa were NCMPs representing PSP in Parliament.
Yeah.
And there was a voice, and that's how people got to know them. And I'm sure they were more recognizable on the ground, right? Because they were on TV and people were and the media reported about it.
Yes.
But now there's no presence in
Yes.
Parliament. And I think one of the things Mr. Leong said was about party renewal was that one of the strategies was to strengthen its online presence.
Yes.
So how do you, what can PSP bring to that space? Because everyone's online. The conversations are happening online. How will PSP plan to stand out from,
Yeah, so we do, without a parliamentary presence, we do expect less coverage from mainstream media. But we are hoping to
You're
use...
here.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, yes, sorry. Please come back when you can.
Please
But
do
yes.
invite us and we'll come. Yeah, but I think we are also looking at, actually one of the ideas we had, these are all plans in progress. They're not cast in stone because we are still at the discussion stage actually, and plans might change along the way. We want to continue to express our views on national issues, important issues that come up in the news, and we might do a podcast, a lovely podcast like this one. So we are exploring and thinking of ways of how we can do that. There are a lot of digital platforms these days I think we can make use of. And of course, social media is one. Our own social media, we definitely have to up our game on that. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. But what is your pitch to Singaporeans to continue to keep a lookout for PSP? Because, as I mentioned, there's no parliamentary presence, right? Yeah. So why should Singaporeans keep a lookout for PSP?
Okay. PSP, we asked our commitment to Singaporeans is still that we want to continue to build ourselves to be a credible, a rational, alternative political party, to give Singaporeans a choice, you see, at the ballot box. I mean, that's what a democracy is about, right? I think generally Singaporeans prefer to have a contest as opposed to a walkover. So that is still our ultimate goal, to continue to be a reasonable alternative choice for Singaporeans. And we are working towards that. But because we no longer have a parliamentary presence, one of our actually learning points is also that we hope that Singaporeans can also take a long-term perspective of this whole thing, right? Because we know that the Singapore political landscape is a bit unique in the sense that we have a very dominant ruling party that has been in power for many, many years. And if we look at the experience of other parties like WP, SDP, they've been around for a long, long time, decades, right? And PSP, we are, some might not know, we were formed in 2019. So we are 6th this year. So I would like to ask, Singaporeans to give us some time. I think the experience of other political parties has shown that, this whole thing takes a lot of time, a lot of consistent effort for us to build our party, to stabilize, and also to gain the trust of voters. So we want to assure Singaporeans that we are working on that. And following the GE, we have gathered as much feedback as we can, the purpose of which is really to know where we went wrong, know how we can do better for the factors that are within our control. Right. There are many factors that are outside of our control when it comes to the whole election process, such as boundaries.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are a lot of cards that are dealt to us that we have to just, we just have to take, and we just have to go with that. Right. But rest assured that for those factors that are within our control, we are trying our best. We are open to all possibilities. Right. Because when we ask people, why do you think we did how we did? And people will give a whole range of views, right? But we are open to everything. We are not. We don't say that. No, I don't think this is the cause of it, or this is not the cause of it. We think like, oh, okay, it's possible, and if we are able to improve on that, we will. Yeah. So that's really our mindset right now, and what we have been doing for the past 2 months. We might seem to have been a bit slow in coming up with a response, right, after the GE, but that's because we were hard hit, to be honest, and we took time, and we are still in the process of trying to come up with a new plan to see how we can, steer this ship forward, and hopefully in the next 4 to 5 years, we want to continue to make an impact, even if we have no parliamentary presence. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any main rejigging? Because you brought up the boundaries, and this is the electoral boundaries that you're speaking about. Does it change the game plan for PSP in terms of like, okay, we now have to walk more areas, because you won't know what happens in the next 4 or 5 years when the next EBRC report comes out, right? And I think one of the comments that came out after the report was released was that PSP had to walk more ground because they were the boundaries which were redrawn. There were some areas where they hadn't walked, the party hasn't walked before. So will that be a rejigging in terms of what's going to be done or thinking ahead?
I think I don't want to limit ourselves right now to certain areas, but we are definitely still going to work from the west, where we started from, where we built our base from. And like you said, we might have to just walk as much as we can, because you never know what the boundaries are going to be like at the next election. And as much as we are limited by resources, as always, we will put in more effort this time to be more consistent, because we have a window of 4.5 years to do this. Yeah.
So something you mentioned was about the party being hard hit with the results. Okay, personally, were you okay with your result? Because you got 34.5.
I think I was the most okay.
The most were you okay? How could you rate your performance? Like, it's like PSL, you hope to get an A, but then you got...
Yeah, I mean, as much as we fight to win and we hope to win, I'm quite realistic. So I went in knowing that it's very unlikely that I was going to win Pioneer. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Because, I mean, when you're up against a pretty established incumbent, it's actually a whole lot more difficult. Yeah, as opposed to maybe someone new, from the other side. So my opponent, Mr. Patrick Tay, he has been in Pioneer for some time, and he has very strong grassroots presence there. So I knew that it's not going to be easy. So I was not very disappointed about Pioneer's results.
Were you walking the ground? How early were you walking the ground in Pioneer, or when did you know you were going to stand in Pioneer SMC?
Actually, I joined PSP in 2023, and from the moment I joined, I started walking everywhere in the West that we had contested in the previous GE. So actually, all our party members and we actually just walked the whole West side without any without saying that I'm only going to walk in this area or you're going to walk in that area. So actually, that's what we did. We walked everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about Dr. Tan because he's the face of the party. I mean, he started the party in 2019.
Yeah.
He's the face of the party. He's the essence of the party. And now he's not going to be on the front lines of the party because he's still a party advisor, correct? So he's kind of like taking a back seat, but he will advise the younger ones? Yes?
Yeah.
And how do you think the party will change and evolve with him not being on the front lines?
I think he stepped down because he wanted to sort of give the leaders a clean slate to work from, away from his shadow. Although I think the founding values that the party was started on will remain the same. So he set the foundation and all these core values, and these core values are what continues to unite the members today, regardless of whatever differences we might have, internally. But the difference is that without him there, I think the other leaders, so the CEC, we might be making decisions that will be different from what would have been made if he was still around. I think it's for him. He feels that it's a good thing, and he wants to pass it on. He wants to just watch from the sidelines, like you said, as an advisor. Coming in where we want him to help. But he will not. He said that he will not interfere on his own initiative. He will help when help is asked for. Yeah, so that is his approach, and I think it makes sense, other than the age factor, because he is very senior, and to a lot of us, actually, he's like our granddad kind of figure, and we also want him to relax and enjoy, his later years, right? So, but at the same time, it's also, I told some of my other members that, although we had known for some time that he might be stepping down, the day when I actually saw the article in the papers, I felt a bit sad, to see he's really actually stepping down. But I think he trusts that the rest of the CC and will be able to, bring PSP forward and hopefully higher and better in the next, for the rest of the journey to come. This super long political journey, long and tough. Yeah.
Talking about long journey, I was going to ask you about, because you have said that Dr. Tan has featured in your decision to join PSP back in 2023. So it's kind of like, one of the reasons why you decided to join this party, right? What are some of the lessons you picked up from him about longevity in politics?
I think it is about, he has said, and I see it in him, that it is about your heart to serve. I think that is what is going to keep you going. Because like I said, the reality is that in Singapore politics, there are many factors out of our control, and we never know. Nobody knows when we will ever set foot into Parliament as an elected MP, and if that day will ever come. But it's also about the journey, I feel, really. I've told the younger members in PSP as well that, if you are too focused on just winning, it might be difficult, you see? Because if you don't, then you feel like, I break down and like, is there any reason for me to continue, right? But if you find meaning and purpose in the journey, whether it is, even without a parliamentary presence, right? Whether it is helping people that you meet on the ground, whether it is raising awareness on certain issues that you find is important, or simply inspiring more Singaporeans to step up and volunteer in politics. I think that part, if you find purpose and meaning in that, it allows you to go the distance. And of course, the base of that is that you have the right mindset, you have the heart to serve, which I think is just embodies Dr. Tan's whole mindset, that he just wants to serve. He's for the people. Yeah, and he always tells us that as long as your heart is in the right place, things will fall into place. Might not be now, but sometime in the future.
Is that why you are staying on? Because I mean, it was your first election, and clearly you didn't get scared by it. Because would you say it's intense?
Yes.
Running in an election.
Yes, definitely.
And you are like, yeah, I'll do this again in 5 years' time.
I think the 5-year period should be a good break enough for me to feel energized and ready to do it again. But of course, I mean, I can't say for sure, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen in 5 years. But
I guess it's about staying in politics, right? That you didn't get weary or tired from running an election or even working in the last 2 years. That you still want to do this. So I guess the question is the why of it.
I think even until now, I just see myself as a volunteer. Yeah. I started off as a volunteer and wanted to help the party in parliamentary work. And even after I became a candidate, and like even now after joining the CC, I still see myself as a volunteer, helping in ways that I can. Yeah, so I think I don't have a specific goal as well, personally lah. So I think maybe that's why I don't feel scared or I don't feel too wary. Yeah, because I still want to serve. I still want to do things for the people. Yeah.
There were some comments coming out from, there were people like reflecting on what happened at the press conference. So an analyst said that the party has shifted to become like a marginal player in 2025 because of the results. And there's talk about how its political star had fallen significantly. Because this is coming off 2020 where PSP wowed, as a new party.
Yeah.
But it didn't repeat that in 2025. And as we mentioned earlier, sometimes the party might seem a bit dated in terms of like the social media game, as you mentioned, and in ways of presentation, right? What do you say to people who come out and say, maybe PSP's best days are behind it?
I think the renewal of the CEC is the first step that the party has taken to show its commitment, to really continue this journey. We could have kept quiet and like maybe appear in another 5 years, right? But I think we are being very honest with Singaporeans about how we feel about the results, and we want to take in the feedback that they have for us, right? And I hope that they see our sincerity in doing this and the effort that we're putting in, and just see what we are going to do, for the next 5 years. Yeah.
Okay. So the next general election, won't be anytime soon.
2030.
Okay, maybe it's 3 years, 4 years, we don't know, but it's not going to happen anytime soon. I'm asking because there's a question from a viewer. Milo Ping. So, yeah, a good thing for lunchtime. Okay, so Milo Ping asked, what is one thing you would change if you became an MP? So it's a long way off. I don't know when it will happen, if it happens, but what would you change if you become an MP?
Okay. Okay, this brings me back to my campaigning days. There are quite a few things that I would like to change. But I think other than the PSLE thing, which I think many people are familiar with already, I've spoken about it many times, and also the part on support for caregivers, which is something I've also spoken about. I think another issue that is close to my heart personally is how I feel that bullying is very rampant these days, and definitely it's because of increased digital interactions between people. And I mean, I have children, so I do see how there's a lot of bullying happening in schools. Yeah, and so that's one area that I feel that there's something that I want to change about, the way maybe how bullying cases are being handled. Yeah, and how we can, I think more effort needs to be put into this issue of how we can, increase support in schools. I think right now every school probably only has one or maybe two counselors. I think we probably need more, and I think that it would be a good idea if students can be taught more about mental health, just like they do physical education classes. Yeah, so that's something that I hope. Yeah.
Okay.
If I ever become an MP one day. Yes.
I want to ask you quickly as we round off, because you mentioned your children. So you stood in the election, and I'm sure they must have seen you in the media and on social media and everything.
Yeah.
What was their takeaway about you as running for election, and what did they say to you after you didn't win?
After I didn't win, they said, Mommy, you didn't win, right? You lost, right? I was like, yeah.
Children too honest, huh?
Yeah. I said, I didn't win. Then I was like, oh, then, but actually, I think they're okay. Like, maybe they didn't expect me to win. I don't know. Yeah.
But they were fine with you going on this journey and campaigning. And
they had a lot of daddy when Mommy was not around. Some complaints here and there. Yeah, don't see me enough. Yeah. But I think daddy also has his ways to deal with them and to sort of pacify them. I think they went on many shopping trips and had a lot more screen time than they would usually have.
But how did you feel about you joining politics and because you were actually in the background for a while and you were helping out with parliamentarian work, but now you're in the forefront. So how did they take to that as seeing you in a very public setting?
Oh, I didn't tell them about this. Yeah, I didn't tell them.
They just found out. They're just like, hey, I see you in the newspaper. Or if you still read
because they
newspaper.
saw me in the papers during the campaign period.
Yeah, and then they were like, hey, looks like you. Is it you?
Yeah.
And were they okay with you, taking a stand or even joining PSP? Do they understand the concept of different parties in Singapore?
My older one does, I think. She does. And she told me that she gave me a list of things that she wanted me to help advocate for her.
She's a young parliamentarian in the making.
Yeah, like fewer exams and how she thinks that it's very bad for children to have to wake up so early for school and they go to school so tired, which I do agree with her. Our starting times are really quite early. Yeah, so I think she's aware of certain very basic things lah. But I think they are okay so far. They're still quite excited to see me. They're not the shy kind lah. My kids are not the shy kind, so it's still okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, we actually have another question, and I guess I'm looking at the question as I think this is a prep for for MP work, right? So the question is, what is your opinion on the middle income class? Well, young couples who are in the middle income who are constantly facing issues that hinder them from having children. Like, what is your take on it?
Okay, I think I assume that the viewer is talking about financial obstacles to starting a family. I mean, my personal experience is that I quit my job when my first child was 1, and at that time I mean, I was earning more than my husband at that time. And he had also just changed his job at that time. And but we discussed it, and to me, I felt that I felt that my children needed me more, and so we were willing to sort of change our lifestyle to accommodate that. As to having children, for me, I have to admit that I didn't consider too much about finances when I decided to have children, because I love children too much. So it sort of came naturally to me. So my advice would be, it depends on how much they really want to have children. I think that if they really do, you might have to adjust your lifestyle, because it's middle income, right? Okay, so I think what I know is that a lot of middle income families, they feel that they don't want to have kids, or they feel that even if they do, both parents need to work because they want to maintain a certain lifestyle, which I understand. Because as parents, you want to give your children the best, right? You want to bring them for holidays and all that. But that is something I think it's a personal decision, but I think it can be adjusted if you are willing to. But of course, from PSP's perspective, we recognize this issue, definitely, which is why in our manifesto and for the past 4 to 5 years, we have suggested ways on how we think the cost of living issue should be addressed in Singapore. That is affecting the middle income families a lot as well, not just the lower income families. The middle income families are feeling the heat, right, because of the demands of the children and also of their parents. And so until there are solutions provided, by the government on how to tackle this cost of living issue, my personal view is that it depends on really how much they want to have children. And I also understand that there's a window, right, for having kids as well, biologically speaking. So if you really want, then I think you have to adjust your lifestyle. That is just my personal view.
So do you think the government, because you mentioned help from the government, there are measures in place which the government announces almost on a yearly basis for,
you mean like vouchers?
There's more if you have a new kid, then you get a lot of rebate. Well, you get a lot of handouts and handouts, if I remember correctly.
The grants, the baby bonus
grants,
stuff,
yes.
right?
And do you think more needs to be done from the government side?
Yes, because I feel that the grants are, after all, they're one-off. And if you were to really go and calculate the amount of money that you need to raise a child, is way more than that. I think that the grants might only be effective for people who are already on the fence, or they don't mind having children and they are not financially they're okay. Then maybe that will be just a little incentive. But I don't think that it will really incentivize people who either they do not want to have children, or they have financial issues. Yeah, because it's one-off after all. It's not like a... Yeah, so definitely I agree with you. I think that more needs to be done. Yeah, and I think that our TFR issue cannot be tackled just based on giving grants or one-off bonuses. I think we still need to go back to the structural issues on what is causing the high cost of living, high cost of housing, high cost of healthcare. I think we still need to tackle those issues, from the root.
All right. Well, Stephanie, thank you very much for that conversation.
Thank you.
So we'll look up what PSP will be up to in the next couple months, couple of years,
yes,
in the lead up to the next general election.
Yes.
So thank you for coming by.
Thank you.
And that's it from The Usual Place. Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you won't miss the next episode. And if you have thoughts on what we just spoke about, drop a comment on YouTube or talk to me on Instagram at The Usual Place Podcast. I'll see you next week on Thursday, live at noon.